most of you who have made it this far. Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. I'm trying to do a theological audit, which is straightening out theology. In the Watchtower study article 41 of the Watchtower study edition for October 2019, Staying Faithful Through the Tribulation, and it's turned out to be a bit of a rabbit hole of theological mess suited to their organisation. But I've come up to this one, paragraph 12. How has the faithful and discreet slave been preparing us for what is coming in the future? Now, identifying the faithful and discreet slave, oh my gosh, I don't know how they've come up with the idea that they are the faithful and discreet slave, but nevertheless they have. And it's this bunch of people, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society governing body. I don't know all the I know Anthony Morris, I know Garrett Loesch, Jeffrey Jackson, Samuel Hurd, Stephen Lett. Not sure of this bloke, and I'm not sure of that bloke, but I do believe, is that Cook? That guy there, I'm not sure, but this is the governing body of the Jehovah Witnesses. Interesting bunch of people. They're leading the deception. To be honest, the only way I can say it is they're leading the deception, but these people are highly theologically deceived. I don't know how else you can put it. It's just the way it is. But thinking they're the faithful and discreet slave of Matthew. And I think we'll go to Matthew 24 in its entirety. This passage is gone over and over. People have gone over and over this again and again and again. Who really is the faithful and discreet slave whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them food, give them their food at the proper time? Happy is that slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. Well, the poor old faithful and discreet slave's in for a shock because they've been lying to their members. Now, this idea that the governing body thinks they're the faithful and discreet slave of Matthew 24. My goodness me, I've talk about use religion as a business shopfront. These guys are the best in the business. I tell you, they've made billions, not millions, billions out of religion.
Hi-ho! 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 It's home from work we go. Hi-ho! 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 It's home from work we go. Hi-ho! Hi-ho!
Hello, everybody.
Howdy!
Yeah, oh my goodness, so many shout outs and thank yous. First of all, shout out to Jonathan and Krista.
Jonathan, I enjoyed very much talking with you on the phone today, and I can't wait for the day that you get your Skype set up. That's
Yep.
going to be even cooler.
Yes, and a big thank you, dear Carmelita. Oh my goodness. Made our day. I mean, this was like a belated birthday gift.
Yeah, but what's so cool about this? You open it up.
Christmas 1917. Back, you realize that book is 98 years old?
98 years old?
Look at 1917.
Hell, it's in better shape than I am.
I mean, it's in better shape than our rainbow collection we have. So,
Yes.
Carmelita,
So we're gonna
thank
put
you
that right-
so
Right
much.
there, dear sister. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it a whole lot.
And Steve. Perfect.
Some red pins now.
Yes. He saw a need and he was compassionate and
You know, it's truly the little things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's little
truly
things.
the little things that mean so much to
Yeah.
Kim and I.
I know it. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to make us happy.
No,
you
it
have your
doesn't.
M&Ms?
I got my M&Ms.
All right.
So
All
before
right.
we get going with this,
Well, I also
we'll
want to
have
give
some more shout outs.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to my dear sister Ginger. Love you, sweetie. Oh my goodness, you know, we know the storm that is about to hit with the convention, and everybody are going to have family members putting their life through hell now of return to Jehovah.
Come back to
You know, with that
Jehovah.
brochure. And, you know, I've been listening to the talk from the convention when they released that book, and it's like, wow, they even have a demonstration, you know, of how elders use this book. And, you know, the loving shepherds will help you come back to Jehovah. Oh, my God. Ugh.
I have a question for you, though.
What?
Not to change the subject,
But you don't mind
but
changing.
I don't mind changing. How come every time you set up this camera, you always center it mostly on you? I think we need to adjust it just a little bit.
Well, just
Just
Scoot it over.
There. Now I'm more comfortable.
well, usually because you have your elbows going like this.
Yeah, I know.
So,
So anyhow, we hope everybody's having a good week, good day. And before we get into the topic of our discussion, the new light,
oh yeah,
I
there's
don't
new
know
light.
that anybody caught it because I haven't heard anybody talking about this yet. Have you?
No?
Haven't heard it mentioned on Facebook. Haven't really heard it mentioned anywhere.
Well, we want to thank John M. for sending us the link to this talk on JW Broadcasting, and it's one of the morning worship talks. And it's trying to explain
Trying to explain
new
something.
light.
Well, before we get into that, I want to read something. A couple of points from Steve
Good old
Hassan's
Steve
book,
Hassan.
Combating Cult Mind Control. Page 302. Mind control is a process by which individual or collective freedom of choice in action is compromised by agents or agencies that modify or distort perception, motivation, affect, cognition, and or behavioral outcomes. It is neither magical nor mystical, but a process that involves a set of basic social, psychological principles. Keep in mind, mind control is the process by which individual or collective freedom of choice and action is compromised.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
interesting about, you know, any new light is years ago, if you believed that way, you were disfellowshipped.
Right. So, going on to page 308. Any country that grants tax-exempt status to organizations that abuse children, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, should be held responsible for that abuse. Tax-exempt organizations like Jehovah's Witnesses that have had policies in place for decades that systematically protect pedophiles from criminal prosecution and which disfellowships victims and their families for speaking out should lose their tax exemption. The leadership should be prosecuted for conspiracy to cover up illegal activities. The tragedy is that many children or young adults who run away from totalistic groups like the Watchtower end up homeless and in the control of pimps who exploit and control them for money or sex. They move from one mind control situation into another.
And that was from page 308.
Yes. The thing that I want to focus on is, you know, obviously when Steve wrote this, he's talking about child abuse. But notice he also mentioned spiritual abuse. And you know, every time Watchtower has new light, that is spiritual abuse, because the ground that the Jehovah Witness is standing on, or the rug, has just been pulled out from under their feet. And this particular morning worship is such an instance. So let's play the clip and catch the new light, because the rug's about to get pulled out from under your feet again, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yep.
A studious sister comes up to you after the meeting on Sunday and says, "Now, I know that there have always been anointed ones on the earth for the last 1900 years, but recently we said that there has not been a faithful and discreet slave providing spiritual food at the proper time during the last 1900 years. Now, what's the thinking behind that? Why did we change our view on that?" Well, we're waiting. How would you answer?
How would I answer that? If I was his sister making that statement prior to 1981, I'd have been disfellowshipped for speaking apostasy. Because look at what the 1981 3:1 Watchtower says, pages 24 through 27. Do you appreciate the faithful and discreet slave? Subheading, who really is the faithful and discreet slave? Now remember, through this talk, he's manipulating the word. See, she says, now I know there's always been the anointed on earth. But who?
They just changed the
That's
faithful
right.
and discreet
Why did
slave.
they just change? Well, they changed because they're confusionists. That's why. Okay? But there's more coming up. But I want to read part of the paragraph here. The paragraphs are not numbered. But I want to read what Watchtower says. Now remember, in 1981, if you disagreed with this, you were disfellowshipped for apostasy. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that this parable pertains to the one true congregation of Jesus' anointed followers. See, it doesn't say slave followers, anointed. Beginning with Pentecost 33 CE and continuing through the 19th century since then, this slave-like congregation has been feeding its members spiritually, doing so faithfully and discreetly. So they're saying that this slave-like congregation has been feeding its members for the past 19 centuries. A little further down. Witnesses of Jehovah understand that the slave is comprised of all anointed Christians as a group on earth at any given time during the 19th century since Pentecost. Accordingly, the domestics are those followers of Christ as individuals. So here, if you believed what he's saying right now back in 1981 and tried to convince an elder or even a circuit overseer or a district overseer, your ass would have been thrown out of the organization for apostasy, just like they did Raymond Franz, because this all goes back to what Raymond Franz was trying to convey to the governing idiots at that time.
Yeah, if I remember right, he was trying to say that it was only the governing body when they met and dispensed the spiritual food that they were the faithful and discreet slave. And we know how that went for him on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to read the next paragraph because this is pretty much what they're referring to. Some readers, well, really, some readers is Ray Franz, may feel that this is a rather sectarian view of matters. Or they may object to the idea that the slave and the domestics represent the same class. One as a composite body and the other as individuals. The objectors, again, Ray Franz, may argue that not all of Christ's anointed disciples have a share in preparing the spiritual food, so that perhaps the slave pictures only the leading ones and the domestics, those they serve in the congregation. It's interesting how they go down to the next paragraph. Starts off like this. There is no point in trying to force an interpretation of the parable. No. There's no point in enforcing it, but hell, if you argue against it, they'll disfellowship your ass. Self-deception is of no benefit and is spiritually damaging. Wow. Wow. Before we go on.
Now, he's trying to say there is no faithful slave for the past 1900 years. So I guess that throws Russell under the bus too.
Gone. Exactly. But you know what? We got Ray Franz's book, In Search of Christian Freedom, and he actually makes a point here, and I want to read this right from the New World Trap translation. 1 Peter 4, verse 10. In proportion as each one has received a gift. Each one, that's individuality. That's not a collective group of 7 little dwarfs. It's not a class of 144,000. In proportion, each one has received a gift. Use it in ministering. Use it in ministering to one another as fine stewards of God's undeserved kindness expressed in various ways. Thank you, dear. I know you have my best interest at heart. You know, without your stewardship, I don't know where I'd be. Each one has a gift, and hers is to keep track of where my glasses are.
And help him remember things.
Yes. Okay, so each one has received a gift. Use it in ministering to one another as fine stewards. Each one of us is the steward.
Doesn't say
Okay?
elders. Doesn't
That's
say
right.
governing body. Doesn't even say faithful and discreet slave.
Verse 11 says, if anyone speaks, let him speak, as it were the sacred pronouncements of God. If anyone ministers, let him minister as dependent on the strength that God supplies, so that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. The glory and the might are forever and ever. Amen. So, what does Raymond Franz have to say about this particular scripture? Page 171. Peter is clearly not talking in terms of some conglomerate, some composite steward, but instead is laying stress on individuals and their personal stewardship. He makes plain that each Christian has some particular gift from God that he or she can use in rendering service to fellow servants in God's household.
He or she.
That's right, he or she. Peter doesn't make that distinction, does he?
No governing body either.
So how come there's no woman on the governing body? Got you there, Splain. So this is also...
Explain that one.
Yeah, explain that one. This is so because God's grace or undeserved kindness is expressed in various ways, even as other scriptures stress. So we're asked to compare 1 Corinthians 12, 4 through 31 and Romans 12, 6 through 8, which I'm not going to do. He goes on and says, not everyone has the same gift. Hence, whatever it is that they have, they can use it to benefit of others, to the benefit of others, who in turn use what they have for the good of others, including those benefiting them. In doing so, they do not become self-important, arrogant, domineering towards others. See? And that's exactly what this faithful and discreet slave, aka the governing body, does. They use it in a very arrogant way and in a very way that dominates their fellow brothers and sisters by saying, hey, if you don't believe this, we're going to kick your ass out of the organization.
And they do.
And they do. The faithful, they faithfully and discreetly use their divine grant of undeserved kindness to the honor of God as dependent on Him. Speaking not of their own theories or some organizational dogma, but the sacred pronouncements of God, His unadulterated word. Really, some organizational dogma. Well, we're going to get into that in just a little bit. So let's watch the next clip. Okay.
Let's consider 4 factors. First of all, spiritual food. What is the source of spiritual food? It's the Bible. Now think back over the last 1900 years. What do we know about the Bible? Well, first of all, up until about 1455, more or less, there were no printed copies of the Bible.
They didn't have the Bible.
That statement is actually true. They did not have the Bible 1900 years ago.
As we know it today.
As we know it today. That's exactly right. You found something in the Diaglot you want to read?
Yeah, he's a little bit off because we happen to have the 1942 Diaglot. And for those witnesses who are watching this, this is published by the Bible Students. International Bible Students Association, Watchtower and Bible Tract Society of Brooklyn, New York. And it's interesting because on page, I am wearing my glasses, smartass. On page 5, the first English version of the New Testament was that made by John Wycliffe about the year 1367. So explain, need to do your research. This is from your own book.
Yeah, he missed it by a few years, didn't he?
Well, this is the English version.
Right.
So, he's talking about the Latin version, and all of this. And it's like we know Latin was hundreds of years before the English version. So, they could have had an English version, or a Latin version, clear back to, like 1200s or something.
Yeah. But the real situation revolves around this. He's making a statement that revolves around a word, the Bible. What he's not explaining and what he does not explain in the rest of his morning worship session is the fact that, no, they did not have a copy of the Bible. What they had were scrolls, were manuscripts, were letters that they passed around amongst each other. In fact, Blaine, isn't that what they found in 1947? The Dead Sea Scrolls? And what's interesting, Blaine, is in those Dead Sea Scrolls was also found the lost books of the Bible.
Other manuscripts and scrolls.
It's funny. I'm just going to mention section 3 here, where it says lost scriptures of the New Testament. Okay? The Gospel of Philip, well, that's not in your New World Trap translation. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Apocryphon of John, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas, and Acts chapter 29. So if you people are supposed to be restoring truth to the earth, why haven't you printed a Bible with the lost books of the Bible? There are other publishing companies that have just done that.
Well, I was just going to say the Catholics announced that they are going to be making a new Bible, and they are going to be adding back in the Book of Enoch. I've even got some with the Apocryphas.
Well, let's see here. Okay, here is
An old
an
Bible.
old Bible. Somebody sent this to us as a gift. This has a publishing date of 1945, translated from the Latin Vulgate, and diligently compared with the Hebrew, Greek, and other editions. But what's interesting is that when you look at some of the back page of this particular textbook, it talks about section 2, apocryphic writings in the end of days. They have 2 Baruch, 4 Ezra, war scrolls, the Apocalypse of Thomas, the Apocalypse of Abraham. Now what's funny, when you flip through this particular Bible, you come up to
Judith.
Esdras. This
Baruch.
Yeah.
Maccabees.
My goodness. Here is 4 Baruch. So the thing that I have to question, Watchtower and Bible Crap Society, why is it that this Bible contains the missing books of the Bible that was found in 1947? It's interesting this was printed in 1945.
Well, they did
So
have,
these things were in existence prior to that.
Well, they have found that Ethiopia
Right.
has some of these manuscripts that they believe Queen Sheba, she took copies with her back when she was visiting Solomon, wasn't it?
Yes, and if you would do any type of serious archaeological research, Splain, you would see that they have found monks that their graves are dating back to 500, 600, 700 years ago, and in those graves, those monks were buried with their arms crossed and some of the missing books of the Bible with them. So if them people died believing that those were sacred writings, then how come you don't?
Well, the thing is the Catholic Church was hunting people down who had these manuscripts, these scrolls, and they would burn them.
Right. So what was the Catholic Church afraid of? What did these scrolls contain that the Catholic Church was afraid of?
Oh, I know what it is, because it
I do too.
did away with their authority.
Their authority. It does away with their authority.
That's why Watchtower won't put any of these lost books in the Bible,
Right.
because it also has men and women equal.
Well, here's the thing. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
Oh, yeah.
See, that right there shows plainly that the women had an equal position with men in God's eyes.
She was an apostle.
Yep.
She was an apostle, and Peter and some of the others did not like
Didn't
that.
like it. Exactly. Because it went against Jewish tradition.
Yeah, so let's get back to trying to explain about the
That's right.
new light of the faithful, discreet slave.
Then there was the name calling. Heathen, dog, pig. That was one reformer talking to another.
Name calling, huh?
To quote Raymond Franz, the more things change, the more things remain the same. Those that have left the Watchtower and Bible Trap Society, we've been called objectors, as I just read from the
Dissenters.
81 Watchtower. Dissenters.
Mentally diseased.
That was a big one.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is all you have to do, Jehovah's Witnesses, is start watching some of the videos. I believe J.W. Fairytale did a video on a current Jehovah Witness that was very, very obnoxious and through the name calling. Kim and I get it from time to time on our channel. So again,
Can't wait until Jehovah destroys you,
Yeah.
evil apostates at Armageddon.
yeah. So the more things change, the more things remain the same. Nothing's changed. It's all the same bullshit.
Yep.
Well, the point of this discussion is not to malign these men. We don't know how Jehovah felt about them. We don't know whether any of them were of the anointed, but just had a few problems in understanding. In the early years, we've had problems in understanding. But the point is this. If you take a good, unvarnished look at history, you just do not see a faithful and discreet slave providing food at the proper time. First of all, in the beginning, the source was not available. Next, the attitude toward the spiritual food was not always wholesome. Then there were divisions, tremendous divisions among the reformers, and finally the attitude toward the preaching work. It was a start, but there was no 1900-year-old slave.
Okay, notice he conveniently leaves out the word slave. He says, we don't know if Jehovah approved of these men. We don't even know if they're the 144,000. But he conveniently skips over the word slave.
Yep. And then he mentions the early years. We had problems in understanding early years.
Let's see, 34 years ago, Splain, the faithful slave was the 144,000 collectively. Now the faithful slave is the governing body providing food at the proper time. The early years, it wasn't too many years ago that you said this generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur. Now you have a problem because now you have to overlap your generations. See, what you're doing, Splain, is you're regurgitating the old bullshit and you're selling it off. You're passing it off as new light.
Well, I was going to say the whole 1975 thing, you know.
There you go.
The early years. You know, it makes it sound like it's going back to Russell's time period, you know, and Rutherford's time period. And yeah, there was some problems with understanding back then.
Well, hell, back in 1961, the year I was born, that's only 50-something years ago, okay? God's law said taking blood fractions was against God's law. You couldn't take blood fractions. But now, God's law, oh, you can take blood fractions. You made no apologies for all the Jehovah's Witnesses that lost their life eating that regurgitated shit. See, Splain? It wasn't just the early years that you had problems. You still have them now.
Well, he covers, you know, we didn't play the entire talk, you know, just to save your guys' brains. But he covers 4 things, and, you know, in this clip, he goes over them again. The source, you know, the Bible, they didn't have, you know, they didn't have it the entire 1900 years, which I think is kind of a moot point.
Well, it is, because it's actually the Catholic Church in Constantine that dictated what the Bible was. How many books? 66 books. So really, Splain, you're just accepting what the mother, the Catholic Church, your mother, has dictated to you what is coming, allegedly, from God.
Yeah, and then number 2, the attitude. You know, they didn't have the proper attitude towards the spiritual food, whatever the hell that means. And then there was divisions, you know, and the name calling, and they were fighting among each other and all of this. And it's like, you have divisions too, Splain.
Yes, exactly. That's why you disfellowship people.
Yeah.
That's why you practice disfellowshipping. There is a reformation going on amongst Jehovah's Witnesses right now, and people are leaving by the droves.
And the reason they don't want JW family members talking to ones like us, because they know that, you know, they talk to us. If our moms talk to us, we can turn them around and get them out. So that's why they don't want us. They don't want witnesses listening to ones like us.
That's right, because they know that we can very easily take something from your reasoning book like the cross and show where you manipulated someone else's words to manufacture a lie, to manufacture your dogma, which takes away a person's freedom of choice.
And then, of course, the 4th one is attitude towards the preaching work. And it's interesting when you do listen to this talk, he talks about the Catholic Church doing preaching work.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that came to the New World, and, you know, they were trying to convert the Native Americans and, you know, this whole thing. And it's like, do they realize that they're actually giving the Catholic Church, you know, they claim we're the only ones on the earth that have been doing the preaching work. Splain, you just admitted that the Catholic Church has been doing the preaching work before you guys were.
Yep. So I get 2 more points. I want to go back to Steve Hassan's book.
Glasses.
Page 302. I think I can see this one just fine because it's in larger print. Mind control is the process by which individual or collective freedom of choice and action is compromised by agents, or in this case we could just say the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, or agencies that modify or distort perception. Now, if you notice, he said back in the early days we had our problems of understanding. Do you see how he distorted the perception? He didn't mention that, oh, let's see, we actually screwed up on the generation that will not pass away. So now we have to refocus it. We meant overlapping generations. See, you distorted perception.
Oh, don't forget the whole 1975 fiasco.
Yeah.
I know we keep harping on that. But they say that it was actually a misunderstanding that the rank and file publishers didn't understand. And they just took a few phrases out of context and did the whole 1975 thing. So
Yeah.
they blamed the, publishers, the rank and file.
So they distorted the perception by saying what they said, but they forgot. Freddie Franz, September 5th, at sundown.
Oh, but haven't you heard? Jerry Jones called headquarters about that.
Yeah.
And they said that is apostate propaganda. The apostates created that talk.
Yeah. So they distort perception. See? That's mind control, Jehovah's Witnesses. They distort motivation, affect, cognition, and or behavioral outcomes. My goodness, Jehovah's Witnesses, you really need to learn something about mind control and how Watchtower is using this to manipulate your lives. But there is a positive side to this, Kimmy.
Oh, what's that?
The positive side is that, as I read in 1 Peter 4, verses 10 and 11, all of us have been given a gift. Now, I'm not trying to brag, but, Kim and I, we have a gift here on YouTube. We can mock.
We're class clowns.
Class clowns. Jerry Jones has a very good gift, along with J.W. Fairytale. These two guys have the gift of getting these class clowns, these knuckleheads, on the phone and make them look like absolute fools. And Mark and Cora have a very wonderful gift of reaching people's hearts. But you know what? I don't want to just talk about us YouTubers. There are many ex-members and or those who studied with Jehovah's Witnesses, like Watchtower examination, and then continued to learn more, and is using what he has learned to show where Watchtower is wrong in their teachings. Carmelita Reinhardt was never a Jehovah's Witness, but she learned all the doctrines and has still continued to learn to help these poor people coming out of Watchtower. But again, it's not just them. There's a whole community of people on Facebook right now that is expressing love and concern and consideration, using their own gift to help everybody coming out of Watchtower. It's just incredible the amount of love that we see from some of these people on Facebook, some of these forums, emails,
messages.
This gift is an individual gift. Sure, Kim and I will admit, not everybody likes our style on YouTube. Not everybody warms up to us. That's fine.
Some people actually call us crazy.
Yeah, I understand that. We get that. But find somebody maybe on YouTube or maybe somebody on Facebook that you can warm up and benefit from their gift. Because as 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10 and 11, we all have this gift. And the more that we can help people, the more we're really doing the preaching work. Because Christ said, love God and your neighbor as yourself. And in the story of the Good Samaritan, they asked, well, who is my neighbor? The neighbor is the person that goes out of his way to help someone that's been beat up. And in this case, from a destructive cult, like the Watchtower and Bible Trap Society.
And I would like to remind everybody that coming up July 26th, we've got the suicide memorial.
Oh, yes, thank you.
That several of us are going to be placing things, Last year we had flowers and a big old cross with a sign and put it right out in front of our old Kingdom Hall.
And I think this year we're gonna hit 2 Kingdom Halls, right?
We're going to try to hit at least 2.
Yeah.
At least 2. So anyway, I wanted to remind everybody of that. And there is a Facebook page, that gives you all the details and stuff. So anyway.
So thanks for watching.
Yes.
And spread the love, people.
And pay
spread
forward.
the love. And pay it forward. Exactly. Because we all have this gift to pay it forward. To help our fellow human beings. And that's what it's all about.
Yep. And thank you, everyone. We couldn't do this without you. Without the encouragement, the emails, the comments, the things you send us,
something as simple as this
helps.
Brings
joy
and love.
Love.
Something as simple as this.
Because this, what this tells us? That someone cared enough about us and our coffin lid to take the time and expense, to find us the red pens and send them to us.
So how is doing this, Steve, not a Christian ministry? Because you are ministering to your fellow man, even if it's in a small way that maybe somebody will say, well, it's just a few bucks, but it's the time and the effort and the heart motivation. And aren't we all supposed to be motivated from the heart instead of the money that Watchtower is motivated by?
Yeah. Carmelita just sent us that, number 7 Studies in the Scriptures book. And the family that sent us, the 5-volume of the original green, New World Translation.
Plus the Rainbow Collection.
People sending us the Rainbow Collection and everything else. So,
and we also don't want to forget who?
Brian.
Yes.
He's been working on this for 5 years. And he made and sent us a copy of J.W. Oppoley.
J.W. Oppoley.
Things like this mean so much to us.
Absolutely. It shows that there is a community beyond Watchtower. It shows that there is love available beyond Watchtower, friendships beyond Watchtower. And this is what Watchtower hates, because Watchtower says that, if you leave
there's nothing out there.
Jehovah's organization, there's nothing out there. So, parents will, avoid being with the disfellowshipped children just so that it appears that you're miserable. It appears that, you're having problems because you left Jehovah.
Oh, they'll do their best to make your life miserable, just to tell you that it's because you left Jehovah's organization. That's why your life is so miserable.
But that's cult speech.
Yeah, exactly.
See?
Because look at all the friendship and things, that people do. Yeah, that is love. That is friendship.
The finished mystery from Carmelita Reinhardt. See, and Watchtower absolutely hates to see a community of love, clear thinking abilities,
just amazing.
So it really disproves Watchtower wrong again.
Yep.
Even though they may try to tell everybody that they're the faithful and discreet slave, these people are actually the evil slave.
Well, even the ones who know computers and stuff have been helping me all week long, and I don't know what I would do without them, because they try to
Yep.
help me and keep my computer running so that we can keep doing this work and everything else. So
it all helps people. It all helps. You know, and we get this question all the time. What can I do to help? You know what? The biggest thing you can do is find a recovery group and encourage those that are coming out of Watchtower. Don't beat them up with fanciful words that really don't mean nothing. Just express love and kindness. That is the greatest way to help.
I was going to say, the sister, dear friend who, keeps our website up and running.
Yes.
Our webmaster.
Exactly.
Thank you, sweetie.
Yes. So there again, pay it forward. We love everybody.
Yep.
Thank you for watching. Thanks to our new subscribers. And if you have any questions, please hit the contact button on watchtower.expose, and we will try to respond as quickly as we can.
Yes. So you all have a great weekend. Oops.
Oh, I forgot the most important thing.
In the article about the do you appreciate the faithful and discreet slave?
This is really one of my most favorite articles that Watchtower has ever published, because in that same Watchtower comes the said subheading, overwhelming credentials. Number one, this is just a partial list, mind you. Noah's wife, angels sent to Lot.
They don't have any explanation or
No.
anything. They just have the word and the scripture. So how is Noah's wife a overwhelming credential that these guys are the faithful and discreet slave?
Yeah. My goodness. Number 30, dwellers in center of earth. How is that a credential that you're the faithful and discreet? This is food at the proper time, mind you.
21, cluster preserved?
Number 72, 24 persons of advanced age. That's food? The proper time?
That's a credential?
That's a credential.
60, new creation.
Yeah, my goodness. Number 32, sanctuary restored. When you look at this list of credentials, it's crap. It's something that would really come from an evil slave trying to convince themselves that they're the faithful slave.
37, they're the apple of Jehovah's eye.
But where is my most favorite one? Number 46. Eagles. That's a credential, all right. If you haven't had an opportunity, Kim and I actually did a video on this particular article. I don't know if it's up on YouTube again, or if it's still in the in the lost zone.
I'm not sure, but if you go to our channel and the little search thing that is like on the home page, just type in credentials. We had a lot of fun with that one.
Yes.
In fact, if I remember right, it was a two-parter.
Yeah, and it's very ironic now with morning worship. We can go right back to the same article and just show how ridiculous Watchtower truly, truly is.
Yep. So
I guess this is goodbye for good now, right?
This is goodbye for good.
All right, everybody enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.